Strap yourself in and get ready. The leaders in BBL Supercoach are incoming. Running in off the back fence to give you the ultimate insight to help you dominate your mates and climb up in the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight BBL Show with your hosts, Brain and Horse.
Yes, g'day guys, and welcome back to the Insight BBL Show. I am the Supercoach Brain, joined by my trusty co-host, the Supercoach Horse. Horse, how you going, mate? We're talking about the big boppers, the bat bowl all-rounders today. Are you pumped?
Yeah, I am a little bit. These is the juicy players that we like to get around, knowing that this is where the majority of our points come from in BBL, and I think this year is going to be no different.
Yeah, we spoke on the last episode when we did the bowlers that 9 out of the top 10 scorers last year were bat bowl all-rounders, and yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see much change this year either, and it's purely because they have 2 opportunities to score to every other player's 1. You know, so we're going to be talking about scoring opportunities a lot, scoring involvements. Andrew Langley uses the word scoring involvements to look at the best options for his players. And the way I look at it, each bat bowl all-rounder, if they're bowling significant overs and they're batting in the top 5, they've got 2 scoring opportunities per game. So definitely a big advantage there to get as many of these guys in as possible.
Spot on. And I think it's going to be pretty evident with this BBL that we speak about being a 3-level scorer from time to time, but our DPP players, or the majority of the players that we're going to speak about, aren't just good with the ball or handy with the stick, but they're also pretty handy in the field and field in dangerous positions as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We often overlook fielding stats, but the very relevant as an example of, you know, Josh Inglis. We talked about this a fair bit throughout. Josh Inglis being the top catcher, top point scorer. You know, I suppose the big thing to look at there is where are they fielding? Wicket keepers often have much better opportunities than those in-ring fielders for the most part. So if you're looking at the wicket keepers to get you some extra fielding stats, that's probably why you want to prioritize that position a little bit over others. But guys, hit the like button if you like the content. Subscribe if you don't want to miss another episode in the future. You'll get that bell every single time we go live. We'll be going live for every single round of the year. So make sure you hit that sub button at the bottom there so you don't miss any. And if you're listening to us on audio, hit the follow button. Leave us a review. A 5-star one would be great. We would love that. And if you haven't joined the Unlimited group yet, 650202 is the code. I'll repeat it. 650202. It's on the screen for those of you on YouTube. We're going to give away a Supercoach Champions ring to the overall winner who takes the league out. And also, luckily enough, thanks to the Standard Squeeze, our OG sponsors, we've got a weekly prize for the top scorer horse every single week. It's you can choose between a little 4-in-1 that we keep our drinks nice and cold or hot in, or you can get yourself a little combo pack as well, thanks to the Standard Squeeze. Legendary blokes.
And is it Bodie coincidence? Again, free to enter and you win free shit. What's there to lose?
We're very lucky to have some awesome sponsors on board that support the show and support you viewers as well and listeners out there that want to drink responsibly and conveniently. So we'll give them a shout out a little bit later on. But final positional deep dive, mate. I think this is episode 17 of the preseason. We've been putting the hard yards in off the back fence over the last probably 4 to 5 weeks. But mate, we've been already kind of touching on a fair bit of this, and our Patreon subscribers would know a little bit about all of the stats and all of the positional analysis that we've done. Talk to us a little bit about Patreon, mate. What's happening in there?
So Patreon is where you will get Braino and I exclusively, not at 3 o'clock in the morning, but almost any time of the day. You've got a question, you put it in the Patreon, and we will answer your question pretty much whenever we can. But then we're going to do exclusive YouTube Reels or YouTube shows, exclusive Q&As. We're going to be answering questions about teams in the Patreon. Basically, if you're in the Patreon, you get access to everything we do, and it's free to join, Braino.
Yeah, you said maybe not at 3 a.m. I find myself awake at 3 a.m. a fair bit these days, changing nappies of a newborn. So maybe I'll answer your question at 3 a.m. Yeah. Maybe. You might find me there, or you'll probably find me asleep. But, we know in BBL Supercoach, we know that a lot changes from day to day, right? You've got to be really fluid with your trades and really fluid with the moves. Captaincy can change, VC can change. Teams can have a player that's not named or a player that gets injured. So being able to change things on the fly mid-round is where you win Supercoach. So you'll have access to us throughout the round. Do I do X, Y, or Z? And we'll lead you in the right direction there. So jump on in the Patreon. The link is in the description below. It's a cup of coffee a month. It'll cost you a lot. If you want the full season access, it'll cost you like $10. So jump on in and give it a go.
It's not just player content as well. We're talking conditions of pitches that games are being played on, weather conditions as well that may be conducive to either spin, or if it's grey overhead, maybe favours the swing bowlers or seam bowlers a little bit more. You'll get all of that and more. Absolutely.
Good shout. Mate, let's talk import price and up. And there's a lot more of these guys that are 152K or up than any other position. And that's because they are such a valuable position from a scoring perspective. Now, we'll kick things off with Matt Short, the most expensive player in BBL Supercoach history. 304K he starts the season at. There's an argument to have him. There's an argument to fade him. How are you leaning at the moment? Because you have to own him at some point. And you have to own him in round 2, I think, is probably the best way to approach it.
Spot on. If you don't own him in round 1, you have to own him in round 2. So if you don't own him in round 1, you have to basically game plan in order to have sufficient funds to bring him in round 2. I've played with both ways when we're talking a team with Short in it and a team without Short in it. And the safest way for me at the moment, without going too much into it, is that I'm toying more with the idea of him starting in my team, so I don't have to trade out potentially multiple players who may score well in round 2 just to get Short in.
The hard thing with Matt Short is that then if you do start with him, right, and I've had him in my team at multiple points throughout the preseason, you have to handicap your squad elsewhere. And that's the one thing that you need to probably be okay with. If we've got enough value across the board and enough of these really good cheapies that are coming in that are going to enable us to have a Matt Short and the guy next on the list we'll talk about in a second, then I'd be doing it because they're the two best players in Supercoach. But for the most part, I think I'm probably interchanging Matt Short, who averaged 103 across 9 matches last year. I don't think we're going to see that again, if I'm completely honest. I mean, 68 and 78 over his full seasons from BBL 11 and BBL 12 seem to be more realistic for me. And if he does go and fall back to that kind of even an 80 average, that's 20 points less than what you're paying for at the start of the year. And there is potentially an argument there that you could go against him and hopefully pick him up a little bit cheaper, even if it's 20K, a little bit cheaper in round 2 for their double. That gives you an advantage there against everybody else who started with him, handicapped their squads, and also probably copped an ordinary score in round 1. So, yeah, it will divide the BBL community, I think, whether you start with that Short or don't.
We'll give a quick shout out to Matthew Short. In 2 of the last 3 games he's played against the Sydney Thunder, who he plays against in round 1, he has scored 137 at Manuka Oval and then at Adelaide Oval, 159. So you really are playing with fire if you decide to bet against him.
And we know that the Sydney Thunder are not exactly the strongest team in the competition, that's for sure. Especially if Lockie Ferguson doesn't suit up and doesn't get through that calf injury and he misses round 1. Who's going to be bowling at him? Daniel Sams.
Yeah, that's right.
Nathan
McAndrew. Liam Hatcher, if he makes the squad.
That could be a tough watch. Absolutely. But yeah, the biggest question mark, I guess, this year is, do I start with Matt Short? Not so much of a question mark, this next guy, mate, Glenn Maxwell, 247K. Now, he would be probably in 100% of teams, right? But the question mark is this hamstring injury that he picked up against Pakistan in the T20 series. Now, at the moment, he's in my team just due to the fact that I'm probably hoping that he suits up. But if he doesn't, I'm probably going to have to get to Matt Short. That's probably the way that I'm looking at it if you're picking one or the other. How are you playing it with Glenn Maxwell? Because he's a must-have. If round 1 stars double, you can't go without him if he's fit.
If he's playing, you've got to select him, and you've got to have the VC on him. You wouldn't straight see him right off the start. You'd be silly to do that. But a VC on Glenn Maxwell round 1, unless you're going to go Tom Curran if you think there's more upside there. But with one of the potentially the most damaging players in BBL, not just in BBL 14 and what we forecast for this year, but in years gone by, probably the most explosive player that we have. It's a dangerous game to fade him also.
Yeah, I think it's a very simple conversation with Maxi. If we find out that he's fit and he's named in game 1, you pick him.
He's in.
If he isn't named, you don't pick him. it goes without saying. But then I think you do have to have Matt Short if you don't pick Glenn Maxwell. I think you have to have one of them. If you can fit both of them, great. I'm probably still on board the one or the other conversation, but it sounds like you're probably leaning towards having both if you can. So
yeah, that's me. Yeah,
interesting. The next guy, mate, Jamie Overton, I'm probably more keen on than Matt Short, if I'm completely honest. I feel like the role's better. I think with the amount of spinners that Adelaide strikers have in, they've got Lloyd Pope, they've got Cam Boyce, they've got Darcy Short can bowl some spin. Fabian Allen also has been signed for the strikers. So they've got 4 spinners without Matt Short right there. So that the question mark becomes, does Matt Short bowl enough to be relevant? And I don't know whether he does, which is why I'm probably leaning towards, hopefully, if Maxi's fit, going with Maxi and getting Short in round 2. But Jamie Overton, speaking of being fit, has finally started bowling for England, which is the positive sign, because we were looking at fading him if he wasn't bowling. That was probably the easiest decision of the year.
That's right.
So,
and recently in that T20 series against the West Indies, he took a 3 for 20 in his 4 overs before being rested in the last game of that series. So he's not just bowling, but he's bowling well.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? If he was bowling powder puffs, we'd be a little concerned, but he's getting them down there like he normally would. So it looks like the rehab's ramped up for him, which is great. So I think you have to have one of Short or Overton. Actually, probably maybe to rephrase this, I put a reel up on social media the other week. I think you have to have 2 out of the 3 of these big 3, we'll call them, Short, Maxwell, Overton. I think you have to have 2 of them.
Yep.
So at the moment, I'm leaning towards Maxwell and Overton just because you're going to need both of them in their double for the strikers in round 2. So you got to pick which way you're going to go. But I'm going to try and save the cash and bulk up my starting team and then work out how I'm going to get Matt Short with probably a boost in round 2. So that's how I'm looking at the moment. But again, we don't need to dive into stats because these guys are must-haves if they're fit and they're healthy. And it's as simple as that. You don't need to overthink or outthink the room on that one.
Don't try and outthink the room, no.
Spot on. Mate, Paul Walter is next on the list, 187K. Brisbane Heat round 3 double. Give us your thoughts on Paul Walter, big tall Paul.
He's a crowd favourite in Brisbane, isn't he? Again, as we've seen with Short, Maxwell and Overton, safe set of hands, good in the field, 3-level scorer. A target for the round 3 Brisbane double, but for me not to start with. No, 187K, 2 singles in 2 rounds. I think we can afford to wait on tall Paul.
We've got so many good options that have a double in the first 2 rounds that it doesn't make sense to then try and squeeze in such an expensive all-rounder that doesn't have a double for 3 rounds. But in saying that, when you look back at his year last year, there were 3 times where he got where he made it to 20 runs with the bat, which I think is important to note. Of course, his role primarily is bowling and bowling death. He bowls those really nice change-ups. He's got that back of the hand, that leg cutter slower ball that's really hard to pick up out of the hand. Chade uses his pace incredibly well. He had bowled 39 dot balls for a guy who nearly exclusively bowls kind of surge and death overs. That's incredibly skillful. Had the economy rate bonus a couple of times when he bowled, but the one thing for me that stood out was the fact that he took 4 catches in the field. So for me, that's probably something that is a nice little topper on top of a really good player because he does field in those really big hot spots too.
Yeah, we see that he fields at deep long on a lot later in the innings for when they are bowling or fielding. So yeah, extra points always a bonus for someone that does bowl death as well.
Yeah, he's got some big buckets for hands. Old Paul
They're
Walter.
huge.
So
yeah.
Yes, round 3, we're talking Paul Walter, we're talking Michael Neser, who's also on this list at 175K. The news on Neser, unfortunately, is the fact that he is unfit and won't be playing round 1 due to a hamstring injury as well. So, we'll be talking about him. Hopefully, he's fit enough for round 3. I was really hoping he was going to drop some cash in the first 2 rounds so we could pick him up cheaper.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't play until round 3's double.
Maybe not, no.
So, not much point talking about him. But, mate, Aaron Hardy is the talking point for me. There's a lot to consider with him. Where are you at with him at the moment?
With Aaron Hardy, you've got to consider him as a bat only. Yes, it'll be nice if he bowls, but when we're looking at the Perth Scorchers lineup, Berendorf, Richardson, Ty, Lance Morris, there's just 4 quicks that I've reeled off the bat, and then they're going to bowl. Well, Turner's injured now, so potentially Spores if he comes in. They're going to have to find some spin options there in the middle overs. I'm not so sure that he bowls his overs enough to get the economy rate bonus or the bonuses that you'd get with bowling you're more than 3 overs. You put something really nice on social media about a week ago in regards to how many times Hardy has actually bowled his 4 overs with those 4 quicks in the side, Braino.
Yeah, so when all 4 quicks played, Hardy last year bowled 1 over in 4 games when all 4 quicks played in the same team. When we say for all 4 quicks, we're talking Behrendorff, we're talking Richardson, Ty, and Morris. And it's rare that all 4 of them played, but because all of them were going through rotation, they were going through Lance Morris was injured to start the campaign. So, yeah, there were some question marks. But in game 1, they got washed out. So that's one thing to consider there. He didn't bowl in that game. In game 2, he only had one over. He bowled 1 over, but there was no Lance Morris in the team. So he was the 4th quick essentially in that team and still only bowled 1 over because Hamish McKenzie, Cooper Connolly and Ashton Agar were also in that team. So they played 3 spinners. Game 3, didn't bowl any overs because all 4 quicks played. Game 4, he bowled 1 over when all 4 quicks played, and that was the only game where he bowled an over when all of them played. And then the next 2 games he didn't bowl because all 4 quicks played. He bowled 2 overs when there was no Behrendorff. He bowled 1 over when there was no Ty at the back end when they were starting to rest these guys on rotation. And then in round 9 onwards, when Richardson got injured and they said, yeah, that he's done for the year now, he went and bowled 15 overs in 4 games. And
4 games.
He either bowled 3 or 4 overs in those games. So you can see there the relevance is if we see this lineup from the Perth Scorchers start out and you see 3 quicks named, I'm probably going to try and get Hardy in my team. But if I see all 4 quicks named, there is no way in hell that I'm touching him until at least round 2 and we get a better look.
Yep. Definitely with you there.
Yeah, in summary, very expensive for a batsman only. I think that's probably how you have to approach Hardy to start with anyway until we see the team lists. So, mate, we've got 3 more guys on this primo list. Bo Webster, 164K, just been selected in the test squad. What's your heart telling you at the moment? How's this going to play out? Do you reckon they're going to keep him in the squad? Do you reckon he's potentially going to play in the 3rd test to replace Mitch Marsh? What's happening there?
Well, reports Mitch Marsh is right to go. So I think we'll see Bo Webster being released and back into BBL contention with the Stars. But the more I research Bo Webster, and geez, I hope I'm not outthinking the room here, but the less I like it. And the reason is this, Braino. So in his last 3 games against Perth, he has averaged less than 30 points per game with a 4 and a 10 in there. And then the second game of their double, he plays Brisbane, where he averages 35. So in 2 of his last 3 games against Brisbane, he scored a 16 and a 25. And at 164K, I think there's better value elsewhere.
When you look back at his stats from last year, and I'm probably on board with you, I'm just looking at his stats from the Shield matches and stuff that he's playing and the Australia A matches that he's playing.
He's on fire.
Oh, he's in such good form. He's taking wickets for fun. I think if I count up the last 9 games that he played, 6, 8, he took 6 for 17 for Tasmania against WA in a List A match.
Mind you, 5 of them were for 0.
Yeah, there you go. Then he took 6 for in a match, Australia A versus India A. He got 46 not 3 for 19, 3 for 49 in that match. And then he's also then taken 5 wickets against New South Wales in his most recent first-class match with a 61 and a 49 with the stick, which is probably where his call up to the test squads come from. So, I don't know whether he's in better form. So that's probably what I'm looking at. I would rather look at recent form than have a look at last year's BBL, personally.
Okay. So what's your heart telling you at the moment?
If he's named, I'm picking him.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the expense of?
Or probably Will Sutherland, I'd say. And just the question marks around Will Sutherland, we'll talk about him soon, around his injuries and things like that. That's probably where I'm looking. Unless I can probably try and make it work and keep him, I think I might be able to. I'm just going to have to swing a bit of cash around because he ain't cheap. 164K he comes in at, so he's not cheap. Yeah. But if I go from short to Maxwell, I free up 60K right there. So
and there's your money. Yeah,
there's my money. But anyway, we'll see how that plays out. We'll be releasing our teams in the Patreon as well, so you can go and all the members will get an idea on what they look like. Daniel Sams, mate, 162K. Unfortunately, Thunder don't have a double till round 6. That's probably the main point, isn't it? You know, you're not picking Daniel Sams on singles to start the year.
No, you're not. No.
I guess the thing that plays into his favour this year is the fact that they brought Rutherford into the team from the West Indies, which means that Rutherford should bat 6, which means that Daniel Sams isn't going to be expected to take on such a load with the bat. And I think that's probably what didn't help, along with the stuff we talked about when we talked about the Thunder and not being able to put up a good score. That was maybe the biggest reason why Sam struggled last year. But keeping in mind, he still didn't struggle anywhere near as much as we thought. If we look at total scoring, he was the 13th, or I think the 13th highest scorer last year. So
still with no real targets to bowl at. So even if the Thunder can score 30 to 40 more runs in innings, that's going to make a big difference to Sam's.
For sure. Mate, this guy, for some reason, isn't even in the top 10%, top 10 owned. But I reckon he should be the most owned player in the game, Tom Curran.
I agree.
I don't understand what people are doing.
If it's a case of trying to outthink the room, then don't. But this guy, alongside Maxi, alongside Short, alongside Overton, he's up there in the top 5 all-rounders that we have here in the BBL.
For me, the confusing part, 29.8% owned at the moment. He's got a better role now. He'll probably bat 7 in this team, to be fair, unless they go with Harper. I think he bats 7 in this team. He will bowl his 4 overs. He will bowl death. He'll probably get some overs in the surge. And I don't know whether you can find a better role. Daniel Sams maybe matches that role. But I'll tell you what, like if you're going without Tom Curran, you're probably outthinking things a little bit. We look at his recent form from the T20 competitions around the world as well. And his form is probably up there as well, like 45 average in 6 games in the 100. He averaged 79 Supercoach points per game in the Vitality Blast in the UK as well. Like he's doing really well of late. So
he's in some good form. Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to fade him at all for me.
No, it doesn't.
So he's the one of the 5 players that hasn't left my team from day one of the app opening. So
I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
Pick him in your team, guys, if you're listening to this one. This is the one that I'm 100% confident in that you're going to be upset if you don't pick Tom Curran, thinking that you fading him will get you an advantage, because I don't think it will. But
no, it won't.
Mate, before we move on to the mid-ranges, the show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. You can get your 4-in-1s, you can get your combo packs. It helps you transport your grog in not glass bottles, because we know those break when you're going boating and camping and fishing and trying to get your alcohol into a sporting event, which we don't condone. You could basically just chuck it in the little combo pack, chuck it in your back pocket because it's that big, and you're good to go for the rest of the day. It measures the perfect pour so you can drink responsibly. You can still drive and know how much you've had as well. So they've put all the thinking into this stuff, and the code that we've got for you is IFS15 to get yourself 15% off at thestandardsqueeze.com. So go over and look after those that look after us.
Spot on.
Mid-rangers, Horse, kick us off, mate. I know you love talking about Big Jack, so he's all yours.
Oh, gets me stiff every time I hear his name. But this is Tom Curran light. If he doesn't bat at 3, he'll bat at 6 or 7. I think he's going to bowl death. He's a good bowler, young, up and coming, New South Wales captain at the moment. He's going to play a predominant role with the Sixers, and I see him scoring really well. And at 136K, definitely unders for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to look at. He'll be one of the most purchased players in round 3, I would assume. We missed him last year. He was super cheap that came into BBL 13 weeks.
58K. I owned him from the start. Yep.
Shit. Okay. Well, there you go. And he got that dual position. He only started as a batsman only. I think that was probably the big downside to starting with Jack Edwards last year.
Yeah.
He got the dual position in round 3, and I'm assuming that they're going to do that again. They'll make dual position changes round 3 and round 6 like they did last year. And he went and made 100K. I think he made nearly the most money last year, aside from someone like a Matt Short. He made the most money in Supercoach. So, a guy that you want, I think, in your team come round 3. And if he's batting 3, I'll tell you what, if you see in game 3, I think it is, or game 2, where the Sixers play the Renegades to start. Am I right?
Yep, that's right. I'll double check that, but I believe so.
Anyway, whenever the game is.
Sixers versus Renegades.
At the SCG. Game. So if we see in game 2, we see Jack Edwards, little number 3 next to him. I'm going to do everything I can to rip my team apart to grab this guy, because if he's batting 3 and probably bowling 4 overs, likely bowling death, he'll probably bowl with the new ball up front too. That's the best role in Supercoach. So he's a guy you're going to have in your team. So
Got a good set of hands
see.
too, Braino.
He does, absolutely. Mate, Will Sutherland is the next guy, 132K, a little bit cheaper than Jack Edwards. I think Jack Edwards is my preference, if I'm completely honest, purely off the back of the fact that there still are question marks as to whether Will Sutherland's going to be 100% fit to bowl. Now, we saw... Sorry, Horse?
I was just going to make it plain and simple that if I see that he's bowling in practice matches and bowling his 3 to 4 overs, then he definitely comes into consideration. But I'm right there with you. If it's a toss-up between Edwards and Sutherland, even though they've got the double in round 1, I'll probably err towards Edwards if those question marks are still hovering about Sutherland's bowling, because you're not going to pick him as a bat only if he's batting at 7.
Not a chance, no. Good finisher with the bat. Definitely capable of being a guy that's relevant with the bat, but in saying that, we need him to bowl. We saw that most of his scoring came with ball in hand last year at the start of the year, and then obviously his scores fell off a cliff when he stopped bowling, so it's just a no-brainer that he has to be bowling to be relevant. And this side strain, or whatever it is, I think the quote coming out to the press was he's going to try and he's got to make sure that he bowls in one of these practice matches coming up in the lead up to BBL 14, and if he's good to go, he'll be right. So that'll be a bit of a test as to whether he gets through that okay and whether he feels all right. So I'm likely to think that we find out or we hear from him on how that's going before we start. We were keen on Fabian Allen. You know what? I'm not overly keen on him now, completely honest. 117K comes in at that mid-tier import price. I was looking back at his stats across different tournaments this year because he is a bit of a T20 journeyman. And he has not averaged above 42 Supercoach points in any of the competitions he's played in this year. Mind you,
a little bit.
18.5 in his 2 games in ILT20. In the South Africa 20 competitions, 17.5 in 8 matches. 35 in the LPL in 11 matches. He played 1 game in the Canada Premier League and got 3. And then in the CPL, which is the Caribbean Premier League, he got 42 in 10 matches. And that is in his home country, keeping in mind. So that'd be somewhere we'd expect him to perform. I don't know whether I want to buy a 42 at a 38 price. What's 117K price at when we look at break-even source? Do you know off the top of your head?
No.
We'll find out for you on the fly. We'll find out as we go. But yeah, definitely not a guy I'm overly keen on, if I'm completely honest.
Looks like break-even's 39. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So we're getting exactly what we paid for with Fabian Allen if he does go and match that CPL score that he's just had. And now coming to a new country, there might be an adjustment period there. No, thank you for Fabian Allen. Although let's give him raps. Probably one of the best fielders in the competition. So he could be relevant in the field, but that's not why you're picking Supercoach players.
That's right.
Jacob Bethel misses round 1 for the Renegades. He's on test duty with England. Actually playing pretty well over there. In the white kit too. Yeah. Renegades have a double in round 4, Horse. Will you be tempted by him then?
Yes, definitely. But not to be mistaken, they do have a bye in round 3, so not before then.
Yeah, good shout. Hayden Kerr, mate, another guy you've been pretty keen on. Is it something to do with the Sixers or is it just a coincidence?
Probably just a coincidence. But I also got his platinum card in my game day squad that I'm really hoping pays off. Good up-and-coming cricketer. He played 2 games last year. His first game back after that injury, he scored in the 70s. So there's definite upside there. If he's scoring, say, 50 or 60 a game, then he's going to make you, 50, 60K on top of his 105, maybe a little bit more. So when we see Hayden Kerr, he can hold the stick all right too, mate. He has opened the batting in the past, has batted at 3 in the past, probably going to bat at 7 or 8 in this side, but will bowl as well. Pretty handy with the ball in hand.
Big pod territory at the moment, I think, 105K for him. Where is he owned? Let me try and find him very quickly.
Last I checked, it was about 7%.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, that's super pod territory at the moment. I'm just looking through his career stats at the moment, and when we saw 39.5 last year in only 2 matches, that's why he gets the nice little discount that he got, because he only played 2 games coming back from injury. In the 2 full seasons before that, he averaged 45.6 and 54.3. So if we can find a middle ground there and he averages around that 50 mark, you're getting much more than you paid for, which is the key to Supercoach. You're getting 15 points more than you paid for, which is around 45 to 50K. So, I mean, I'd be happy with a Hayden Kerr at 160K that I could move on after their double and take it to the bank.
averages about 57 against the Renegades in his past 3 games against them as well.
Spicy. Good stat. All right. Hayden Kerr, definitely one of the cheaper bat bowl all-rounders that you should be considering for your team to start in BBL 14, 100%. Of course, the show is also brought to you by Game Day Squad, the next big thing when we're talking fantasy sport. Now, you can download the Game Day Squad app. You put in the code IFSAUS and we'll give you a 3-player rare pack to get your squad started. I've been scouring the marketplace trying to find some of the... I need a Matt Short gold or platinum card. I'm struggling to find anything that I can not have to take a small loan out for. But right. He's a guy that is pretty expensive on the app at the moment for good reason. But I'm trying to get one of him so I can compete in one of these higher tier tournaments at the moment. How's that squad looking for you at the moment?
Yeah, pretty good. Again, looking for cheapies. So I'm more of the dynasty type of element or thinking at the moment. As the tournament comes closer, no doubt I'll be looking for your Maxwells and your Shorts and Websters who are going to score well. But for me, I'm all about Constant, Beardman, Solzman, Vidler, however you pronounce his surname. These sorts of players that are going to be good players in 2 or 3 years' time. I'm going to hoard those, get some really good cards of them, and then hold on to them. So then when they do increase in value, 1, I'm getting good point scoring opportunity. But 2, if I did want to sell them on, I'm going to make some cash out of them.
Spot on. I like it. And you don't have to worry about, how much these players cost. It's nothing like Supercoach. It's very different. You can accumulate these players as player cards. They're different values. I think that you go from bronze, silver, gold, diamond, platinum, and there's legend 1 of 1 cards where there's only 1 of that level of card in the whole of format. So they're worth a fair bit. I think I saw there's a legend Josh Brown floating around on the marketplace for like $300 at the moment. And when we're talking $300, you can win cash. There's over $25,000 in prizes the Game Day Squad give away across BBL 14, across the whole campaign. They also play in BBL finals as well. So it doesn't just end as soon as round 9's done. You play all the way through into the finals as well. And plenty of cash giveaways. You can win yourself some Game Day Squad cash to then spend within the app and bolster your squad getting ready for next year as well. Like Horse said, it's all about dynasty. So building your squad up, it doesn't just end at the end. You get to keep your cards and you keep your squad and then you build again towards next year. So Game Day Squad, definitely get involved. Download the app, use the code IFSAUS and try and beat us, take us on. We'll be having leagues as well going.
While we're going right now, I can tell you that I have just bought a Dave Warner Platinum card for $1. So here's hoping he goes off.
Yeah, spicy. I actually don't mind Dave Warner this year as well for Game Day Squad specifically. I think the one thing also, it might be worth mentioning for anybody who has questions around Game Day Squad, hop in our DMs, will help you out. But the double game weeks, right, they're very relevant in Supercoach formats, but in Game Day Squad, they take the highest score of the 2 scores from a double game week. So you don't necessarily need to stack your team full of double game week players. You can just put your players in that you think are going to score the highest score individually in that round, no matter whether they have a double or a single. And it'll just take their highest score of the 2 that they have throughout that double. So, yes, they have 2 opportunities, but you can still maybe back in another player more comfortably than you would in the Supercoach format. So, hop in the Discord and chat Game Day Squad. Contact Game Day Squad directly. They're great in the DMs. They'll help you out if you have any questions and jump in and take us on. The link to Game Day Squad is in our description below. But also, there will be a link to join the league for Game Day Squad that we'll be running as well. That'll be in our Patreon. So join as a free member there and we'll sort you out. Now, cheapies, mate, less than 100K, Marcus Stoinis. I hate saying his name because he's ruined me so many times in BBL Supercoach, but there is one instance, I believe, where he is relevant this year, and that is if Bo Webster and Glenn Maxwell both don't play.
Yeah. And I'm still not picking him because he's burnt me so much in the past. I'm being thick about this. As much as I'd like to have him in, I just can't do it. He's hurt me too many times.
All right, let me rattle off. Right, you're going to hate me for this. Let me rattle off his scores from T20 tournaments globally this year.
Okay.
76.2 average in 5 games in the SA20. 49.1 average in the IPL in 14 games. 80.1 Supercoach average in 7 games in the T20 World Cup against the best competition in the world. 58 in 7 games in the MLC Major League Cricket. And then 75.2 in 6 games in the Canada Premier League. Tell me there's a better player at that level that are scoring Supercoach points. The lowest average score that he had is 49.1 in the IPL.
I could rattle off a few nicknames that I've got for you, Braino. Predominantly one that starts with C and rhymes with bunt. But, shit, I don't like it. But those numbers are ultra impressive, aren't they? And we don't pick our Supercoach squads based on good bloke status. We pick our Supercoach squads in order to finish first. And if you're reeling off those names, fucking hell.
Tough, isn't it? Because watch him come out in the BBL in his home country and he'll average 17 and just cuck us all. So that we know he's.
After you've said that.
Yeah.
No
Is he
question
back in your
about
team
it.
now?
I am ready to get hurt again.
Yes, Steve Carell. I think I might be ready, potentially. We'll see. He's just too cheap. That's the one thing for me is that if he was 110K, 120K, no fucking way. Not touching him. But he's 84K, bat ball, dual position.
He hurts. I'm crying just thinking about him.
I mean, we're talking about, are you going to pick Ashton Turner at 70K, who might not even bowl at all, versus Marcus Stoinis at 84K? On a double versus a single. Maybe I'm selling.
There's nothing wrong with the recording. I've just gone quiet for those of you that are listening to this on audio.
You know the SpongeBob SquarePants GIF where everyone's buying pitchforks and going towards the person. I'm going to be at the other end. People are going to be fucking destroying me if Stoinis doesn't go well. But anyway, that's
what? They're going to be hailing you with gold glitter if it comes off. Yeah.
I don't mind glitter. I prefer gold, but glitter's good. Let's move on to the guys that are 58K and below, mate, because they're the true cheapies of the competition. And we've got James Bazley as the first one. Potentially number one in terms of most value available at position, just purely off the back of what he did at the Brisbane Heat. Now, obviously, he's at a different squad at Adelaide Strikers, but 58K is so cheap to have a guy like him that could do both. He might bat 8. He might bowl 2 or 3 overs. He might not play at all.
He's injured at the moment?
Yeah. So he's got that side strain at the moment.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's side strain season by the sounds of things. I don't know whether he's going to be fit. There seems to be question marks on the Strikers end as to whether he's even going to be fit. So, and is he in their best 11 is the next question. I don't necessarily believe that he is, considering the way that they're talking about Jordan Buckingham at the moment, is that they're probably going to go with him over Bazley, just based on conversation they've been having. So if he's picked, you have to have him. But I don't know whether it will.
Practice matches start later this week too, so we'll know more then.
Yeah, follow us on socials, on X and Instagram, and we'll be updating you every day on what's been happening there. Matty Spores, 58K, bat bowl. Very relevant now with no Ashton Turner, potentially. Is he someone that you've been looking to try and fit in?
Yes, absolutely. Spinner, probably the only spinner that the Perth Scorchers have got. Hasn't played a lot of representative cricket for Perth or WA, but has been performing quite well at state level over in Perth. So I think he gets to go early, and at 58K, will no doubt make us some coin.
Yeah, should bowl his 4 overs at least in round 1 and should bat 7 based on how we see this lineup for without Turner, without Connolly, without Agar. The question mark becomes, does he even make it to be relevant in round 2 if 1 or 2 of these 3 guys come back? The word is for Agar and Connolly that they're due back in the early stages of the BBL. Whatever the early stages mean, I have no idea. You'd hate to pick him and he plays 1 game of the double as well. That'd be really annoying. So there's still a little bit of risk there, but at the price, I think it's worth the risk because he probably still makes money regardless. So still not a bad shout if you want to enable your squad and you're looking to get the Matt Short and the Glenn Maxwell in. He could be the guy that frees up that cash for you to do that. And also Perth played game 1. So you can use him comfortably as an emergency loop off the bench. If he doesn't come off and it doesn't work out, then you get another player in to replace him and you don't copy his shit score. So there's plenty to like.
Looking through Matthew Spore's career stats, he actually has 100 in a T20.
Okay. That's not easy to do.
108 not out.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, I don't see him batting higher than 7, so he won't be able to do that for Perth Scorchers. But if he can hold a stick like that, he's pretty valuable. Could get you a quick 20 off 10 and get you the little 25 strike rate bonus at the end of the innings. So, yes, please. Now, Jack Wood, 58K, got added late, signed late by the Brisbane Heat. The same Jack Wood that we got fake news about last year that we thought he was going to be opening the batting and he didn't even get named. So that was fun.
Matrix.
Yeah. Shout out to Supercoach Matrix there who got he got led astray in a group chat with some mates. So that's
He did.
shout out to him. But I don't necessarily see him playing. So, but he could be a decent loop option. But the next guy is cheaper that I would prefer as a loop in Will Salzman at 39K. If you're looking for a dual position player, DNP player that you can use to utilize your loophole emergency, Will Salzman is the guy to have.
Spot on. There's nothing more to add there.
Nah, no, not really. I mean, look, I understand the Jack would play because he's the next cheapest bat bowl DNP. So if you want to have 2 DNP bat bowls, fine.
You're saving 20K though.
Yeah, you are. That 19K is so fucking valuable, I think, at this time of the year when we're looking to try and squeeze in all of these guns that we talked about at the import price and up. It's going to be the key to getting your best squad possible to start with. And ideally, I don't know whether I want to start with more than 2 DNPs in my squad, being Doran and Salzman are probably the 2 best DNPs for the loop. I don't know whether I want to have 3 horse. What are your thoughts?
Nah, because cash is king. 2 is probably the max.
Not making money if they're on the bench doing nothing. So, it is a smart tactic to have, but I don't
probably Doran and Salzman at the moment for me.
For sure. I mean, we've got Buckingham at bottom dollar. Hopefully he lines up for Adelaide in round 1, and then, you don't really have to worry about it too much in your bowler slot. The good thing is, ideally, tactically, you're hopefully getting a Perth Scorchers player on your emergency on your bench, so you get an early look. That way, after game 1, if you feel like you need to loop in any of those players, you can get another DNP if you really needed to utilize that loophole. But you've got game 1 to look at that beforehand. I wouldn't be putting my emergency on a player that's playing from game 3 onwards. It just feels like a bit of a waste there. You're limiting your flexibility.
Spot on.
That bowl all round is done, mate. There's obviously lots to talk about, and it's very top-ended in terms of price with the relevant guys there, but there is some amazing value in the mid-range that we've talked about today. So you want to get a couple of these guys in your squad this year to start things off. But that's our thoughts on the DNPs, and that's our thoughts on the positions in general. We've covered all 8 teams. We've done previews on all 8 teams. We've talked about the way that we play Supercoach and the tactics. We've talked schedule, and we've done a deep dive on every single position. So we've got one more episode coming up that won't be on YouTube. It'll be inside the Patreon, and that'll be a news segment. So basically an episode all on the latest news that's happening across the BBL, where the injuries are, the availability challenges, and the conflicts with international players. We'll be talking about it all, and we'll be answering all of our Patreon's questions in the lead up to that. So I'm looking forward to recording that one. That one will come out in the next probably 4 to 5 days. Horse, plenty happening, isn't there?
Oh, there's heaps, mate. And ladies and gentlemen, don't wait until the last second to create your side. We've got 12 days, 4 hours, 25 minutes, and right now 40 seconds until the first ball is bowled. So don't give it 12 days before you start constructing your side. Get to it now. If you've got any questions, jump in our Patreon. It is free to join and ask us. We're happy to help you.
Yep, 100%. Guys, that will do us. We'll see you next episode for the latest breaking news, and then we're coming into the lives when the season's just about to start. So stay tuned for that. Looking forward to getting the season started. We'll catch you then. Have a good one.
See ya.